Okay, I'm going to start putting in the cross former or the cross support. You can see where the steel rule is. That's where I'm going to install that. It's going to be a piece of plywood. I'm going to slice through the wing and insert a plywood spar. This is also going to help with stress from right to left or lateral stress on the wing, and also support for the engine. Some of the components that I'm going to be installing: these are 380 Max servos. They're digital metal gear. I have a 60 amp ESC, 13.8 propeller. This is a G46. It's a 46 glow equivalent 670 kV motor. And it's going to be flying on a Futaba system. That's an FR Sky 7-channel receiver. This is the plywood spar that's going to be inserted into the wing. The spar is going to be put across the wing, and I'm going to go to within 1 inch of the carbon fiber spars on each end. So there'll be an inch between the end of the plywood spar and the carbon fiber spars. So I've already measured and cut the spar out. Next thing I have to do is cut the slot in the wings. After I do that, I'll actually insert the the plywood spar and draw a line on each side of the plywood so that it matches the wing. I'll sand down the plywood spar so that it matches the contours of the wing on the top and the bottom. To cut the slot in the wing, I'm going to cut it from the bottom. The reason for this is the bottom is a lot flatter than the top, so I'll be able to cut more vertically down through the wing. This is a piece of aluminum angle, and what this is going to do is allow me to place a blade right against the aluminum angle and cut almost an exact vertical slot into the wing. I won't have to worry about tilting one way or the other. I'll just hold down the angle, the aluminum angle, and then I'm going to use a long break-off utility knife so that I'll have a long blade and I can just cut straight down through the wing. Okay, the center spar has been put in and the bottom has been trimmed to match the bottom of the wing, and now I've got to turn this over and mark the other side. Okay, I have the wing turned over. You can see that the plywood spar is sticking up above the wing. I've used beds again, re-emphasize why the beds are so important. By making sure that this is laying in the bed, I know that the front and back part of the wing where I made the cut are level, because they're sitting in the beds. So this makes sure that when I do the cut on this, that the area behind the spar and the area in front of the spar are level, and then this will be cut correctly. So I'm going to cut this initially with a bandsaw and then sand it, and then I'll put it back in, see how we did. The plywood spar has now been shaped, and you can see a V shape on the top, and it's more straight on the bottom. So now I'm going to insert it into the wing. We'll take a look and see how well it matches. This is the top of the plywood spar. It's already been inserted and trimmed off. This is the bottom of the plywood spar. I just flipped it over so everything's in pretty good alignment. Now I've said that I was going to epoxy this in. I may wind up just putting this in with 77 glue. I can do it either way. 77 glue is not quite as messy as epoxy is. So the next few minutes I'll decide how I'm going to put that in there and go ahead and glue it. I did decide to epoxy the plywood spar in, so it's in there now. It's sitting in the bed, and I've got it weighted down to make sure everything stays flat as the spar dries. I used a nice coat of 30-minute epoxy on each side of the plywood and inserted it down into the wing, and I've got wax paper on both sides to keep things from sticking. I'm going to do some trial layout of the equipment on the plane, so what I'm going to need to do is have something to help me know when I've got the balance. So what I've done is taped a dowel rod on the CG line on the bottom of the wing. So now as I place the items and I have the wing face up, it'll either rock forward, rock back, and I'll be able to tell when I've got balance and when I don't. Okay, I've laid out all the electronics on the plane. I've taped on the ailerons, the winglets, and the servos in place, push rods, the engine or the motor, speed controller, and that's 4400 4S power. Battery pack, 2 packs just taped together for now. And assuming that the engine is mounted right here just behind the CG with some kind of an engine mount, which I don't have right now, what I've done is tried to set this up so it balances. Underneath the plane along the CG line there's a dowel rod taped so this plane can actually teeter on the CG. So if I move this back just a little bit, I can find the point where right there it's actually balancing on the unit. So that's the approximate CG that I'm going to need with this set of equipment. And I'm going to have to design a motor mount next to go in here. This area is going to be cut out, which is going to shift the CG a little bit because we're going to take out a block of foam this big on each side to clear the propeller. So it's going to shift a little bit, but this gives me a good idea of what's going to need to be done. I'd like for this to come back a little bit farther anyway because right now it's sitting on top of the spars. So I'm going to have to do something to make that work a little bit better. Of course, it'd be nice if we had some movement in the batteries to adjust the CG.